It all began with a whisper. A rumor passed between late-night readers in hidden corners of cafes, between tired university students huddled over their laptops, and between those who still believed that stories could change the world. Somewhere beneath the bustling streets of the city, below the subway lines and forgotten tunnels, there was said to be a library that didn't here exist on any map, a place where books that were never published, banned, or lost to time could still be found. Alina Ruiz didn't believe in myths. She was a digital archivist, someone who trusted in data, not legends. Her job was to scan old manuscripts and preserve them for the city's ever-growing online archive. But when she stumbled upon a coded message inside an antique book donated to her office, her curiosity pulled her into a mystery far deeper than she expected. The note was short and strange. Knowledge doesn't vanish. It just hides where light can't reach. Along with it came coordinates, ones that led her to an abandoned metro station, sealed off since the 1970s. That night, driven by curiosity and a quiet longing for something real, Alina took her flashlight and followed the trail. The air underground was thick with dust and silence. Old posters clung to the cracked walls, faded advertisements for concerts and newspapers from decades ago. The city above hummed faintly, like a memory of a world she had left behind. As she reached the end of a narrow passage, her flashlight caught something impossible, a massive wooden door carved with symbols from dozens of languages. Latin, Sanskrit, Arabic, Japanese, all blended together in a single phrase that read, "For those who seek, let the past speak." When she pushed it open, a rush of warm air greeted her, carrying the smell of parchment and candle wax. Inside stretched a cathedral of knowledge, shelves spiraling upward into darkness, bridges suspended between aisles, and reading lamps glowing like constellations. The underground library was alive, not with noise, but with presence. Books whispered as if breathing. Pages rustled as though the stories themselves were awake. A figure emerged from the shadows, an elderly man with silver hair, wearing a coat that looked older than the city itself. He introduced himself simply as the keeper. "You found us," he said, smiling gently. "Not many do anymore." Alina followed him deeper into the labyrinth of shelves. The keeper explained that the library had existed long before the internet, a sanctuary for knowledge that the world wasn't ready to remember. Every book here had been lost, censored, or abandoned, collected by generations of librarians who believed that no story should ever truly disappear. "What about digital archives?" Alina asked, trying to bring logic into this surreal place. The keeper chuckled softly. "Digital memory is fragile. Power goes out. Servers fail, but paper endures. And so does the human heart that reads it. She ran her hand along a shelf and paused when she saw a familiar title, one that shouldn't exist. It was her great-grandmother's diary, lost during the war. Inside were poems, sketches, and letters, the unrecorded life of a woman she barely knew. Selena felt a lump rise in her throat. The library didn't just preserve history, it returned it. For weeks, Alina kept returning in secret. She learned that the underground library wasn't just a collection of books. It was a living archive. People came to donate forgotten manuscripts, restore burned texts, and share knowledge outside the control of corporations or governments. Each visitor added to its silent revolution, preserving the world's hidden wisdom. But secrets like this never stay safe forever. One evening, she arrived to find the keeper speaking with a stranger in a grey suit, someone who didn't belong. He worked for the city's Department of Information Security, and his tone was cold and efficient. "Unauthorized archives are illegal," he said. "We can't allow unverified knowledge to circulate." Alina stepped forward. "This isn't unverified, it's unforgotten." The official turned toward her, unimpressed. "The world has moved on. We don't need dusty paper to tell us who we are." But the keeper only smiled. "That's where you're wrong. Without memory, progress is blindness." Within days, access tunnels were sealed. Surveillance drones patrolled the lower metro levels. The library's survival was at risk. So Alina did what she did best. She archived. Using her digital expertise, she scanned and encrypted every rare text she could, storing them in an untraceable cloud linked only to one keyword. Then, on the night before demolition, she and the keeper lit candles along the shelves. They stood in silence, as if saying goodbye to old friends. "The library will return," he whispered. "It always does. When the city filled the tunnels with concrete, no one knew what had been buried beneath. Not the officials, not the workers, not the millions who walked above, but somewhere in the encrypted web, in a hidden corner of the digital world, Seeklight began to spread. People whispered about it in forums, shared fragments of lost literature, and soon small networks of underground readers started forming again, this time online. Years later, Alina returned to the same metro station. The entrance was gone, but the signal was still alive. She opened her tablet and typed the old keyword. Instantly, a familiar message appeared on her screen. "For those who seek, let the past speak." And as the light from her screen reflected in her eyes, she realized the library had never died. It had simply evolved from paper to pixels, from tunnels to networks, from silence to endless connection. In a world obsessed with speed, the city's secret underground library remained a quiet rebellion, proof that stories will always find a way to survive, no matter how deep they have to hide. And somewhere beneath the city's heartbeat, the keeper's words still echoed. "Knowledge doesn't vanish. It just hides where light can't reach, until someone who still believes comes looking." Alina never forgot that night, the final flicker of candlelight reflecting off shelves that had survived centuries. But even as concrete sealed the tunnels and machinery buried the library beneath layers of silence, something deeper had awakened inside her. Years passed. The city above continued its restless march toward automation and order. Every transaction, every conversation, every dream, all digitized, categorized, and archived in massive corporate servers. Convenience had replaced curiosity. Efficiency had replaced wonder. Yet beneath the surface of the web, whispers about the Seeklight archive continued to grow. At first, it was small, a message board filled with scanned pages and coded references to forgotten books. Then came a wave of artists, teachers, and students who began to upload ancient texts, letters, and diaries, long erased from public memory. Some posted fragments of poetry that had been banned in their countries. Others shared drawings, lost inventions, and even old lullabies recorded from grandparents. Each contribution added to a digital tapestry, a living library with no central authority, no censorship, no ownership. Every piece of knowledge belonged to everyone, and at the heart of it all was a mysterious username. The Keeper returns. Elena had her suspicions. The old man had vanished the night the library closed, but his words lingered in every file, every note, every hidden clue. Perhaps he was gone, or perhaps he had become something else, a guardian in code, watching over this new era of preservation. One evening, as Elena reviewed new submissions for the archive, a strange notification appeared. Access granted. Vault of Echoes. It wasn't something she had created. Her hands trembled as she opened the link. The screen filled with symbols, the same carved languages she had seen on the door of the underground library years ago. And then a holographic map of the city appeared. Dozens of points began to glow beneath the streets. It wasn't just one library, it was a network. Dozens of underground chambers scattered across the world, hidden beneath cities, mountains, deserts, and islands, all storing fragments of human history. The first library she had found was merely one branch of an ancient system known as the Atlas of Memory. Every time a culture tried to erase, censor, or rewrite knowledge, a group of secret librarians preserved it. Elena's heart pounded. This wasn't legend, it was legacy. Over the following months, she devoted herself to decoding the map. Each glowing dot revealed coordinates linked to texts, some already integrated into the Seeklight archive. Others still missing. She began to contact trusted collaborators, linguists, historians, programmers, and even former hackers to help her uncover the truth. Soon, they began to piece together stories of other keepers. A monk in Prague who saved forbidden manuscripts during the 1500s. A teacher in Alexandria who copied texts before the Great Fire. A scientist in Kyoto who preserved wartime research about renewable energy. The keepers had always existed, invisible guardians of knowledge, ensuring that no truth could ever be completely lost. But the more Alina uncovered, the more she realized that someone else was watching. Anonymous users began tracing their digital footprints, attempting to shut down the servers. Government firewalls blocked the SeekLight archive in several countries. Corporations demanded that unauthorized data be deleted. Then came a direct message: "You're protecting ghosts, Alina. The past doesn't feed the future." She knew that tone, cold, mechanical, certain, was from the same Department of Information official who had once threatened the underground library. They hadn't forgotten her, but Alina wasn't the same person anymore. She had grown resilient, meticulous, and fearless. She responded with only 3 words: "The past is the future." Within hours, she initiated a new phase of the project, codenamed Echo Bloom. It wasn't just an archive anymore. It was a decentralized network of encrypted nodes distributed across millions of personal devices. Every person who read a book, shared a page, or uploaded a memory unknowingly became a guardian of knowledge. The system made the archive untraceable, impossible to erase. One day, as she prepared a new upload, her screen flickered. A message appeared, simple but unmistakable. "You have done well, seeker." The library breathes again. Her eyes filled with tears. Whether it was a program, an echo, or the old keeper himself, she didn't know. But the message meant one thing: the spirit of the underground library still lived. Weeks later, the city faced a blackout. Data centers failed, communication networks collapsed, and for the first time in decades, people found themselves cut off from the digital world. Panic spread. Yet, when the internet returned, something extraordinary happened. People discovered that the SeekLight archive had survived untouched. Its decentralized design made it indestructible. And so, as institutions crumbled, people turned to the SeekLight archive for knowledge, for medicine, literature, philosophy, and hope. What had begun as a whisper had become a revolution. Humanity had rediscovered the value of curiosity, creativity, and preservation. Years later, schoolchildren learned about the underground libraries not as myth, but as history. Museums recreated them as immersive experiences, while others continued to expand the real digital archive that connected the world through memory. Alina, now older and grey-haired, stood before a new entrance deep beneath the rebuilt metro. She placed her palm against the steel door, which opened with a soft hiss. Inside was a familiar glow. Shelves, lamps, pages waiting to be touched again. And there, waiting among the books, was a small plaque engraved in multiple languages. "The light of knowledge never dies, it only waits for a seeker." She smiled, tracing the words with her fingers. "Welcome back," she whispered to the stories that had once been buried. The underground library was no longer a secret. It was a symbol of resilience, of humanity's refusal to forget. As she stepped inside, the air hummed softly with the sound of pages turning themselves as if greeting an old friend. Somewhere in the distance, the keeper's voice echoed faintly. calm and timeless. As long as there are those who seek, the past will always speak. And above the city pulsed with life, unaware that beneath its feet, the oldest and bravest dream of humankind was still alive, the dream to remember. The sound of pages rustling was almost musical, like whispers weaving together into a living song. Elena took a deep breath and felt time dissolve. The underground library had returned stronger, wiser, and more connected than ever before. It wasn't just a sanctuary of old paper and ink now. It was a bridge between centuries, linking ancient scribes with future thinkers, reminding humanity that progress without memory was an illusion. She moved through the aisles slowly, touching the spines of books as though greeting old friends. Many of them she recognized from before, texts she had scanned, volumes she had carried out in haste before the first closure. But others were new. Somehow, during all those years, the library had grown. There were modern volumes, 2 handwritten journals, digital prints transcribed by volunteers, even AI-generated books bound by human hands. One in particular caught her attention, a slim, silver-covered book resting on a pedestal at the center of the room. The title shimmered faintly under the lamplight. The Human Archive, Voices Through Time. When she opened it, she saw not words printed in ink, but glowing lines of code, thousands of them. The text rearranged itself before her eyes, transforming into handwritten letters, diary entries, research notes, and poetry. Every page represented someone's thoughts, preserved across the digital network she had helped create. The Seeklight Archive and the Underground Library were now one, the old and the new finally united. A voice spoke from behind her. "You made this possible." She turned, and there he was, the keeper. Older now, perhaps not entirely human anymore. His form flickered faintly, like light bending through dust. His eyes, though, were the same calm shade of grey. "You're still here," she whispered. "I never left," he said, smiling. "The library remembers all who believe. You carried it forward, not just through data, but through conviction." Elena felt emotion rise in her throat. "I thought I lost everything that night." The keeper stepped closer. "You did not lose. You transformed. The library was never about walls or shelves. It's about connection. You brought that truth into the age of machines." He gestured toward a glowing column in the corner. From within, faint holographic silhouettes appeared. People of every age, language and culture, reading, writing, learning. They were the guardians of the new era, the modern seekers. "Each of them carries a piece of the library," he said. "In their devices, in their minds, in their hearts." Elena realized what he meant. The Seeklight Archive wasn't just surviving because of technology. It was thriving because humanity had reclaimed its curiosity. People had begun to care again about the why behind knowledge, not just the what. The keeper handed her the silver book. "This belongs to you now. The library must always have a living guardian." "I'm not ready," she said softly. He smiled. No one ever is. That's why it works. And with that, his image began to fade. The library lights flickered, and for a brief moment she felt as though time itself bowed in silence. When he vanished, only the faint hum of the shelves remained, a sound that somehow felt alive. Over the next years, Alina dedicated her life to training new keepers. The underground library evolved into a network of learning sanctuaries across the world, some physical, some digital, all united by the same philosophy: preserve truth, protect imagination. In one hidden chamber, she placed a plaque engraved with a single phrase: knowledge is not owned. It is shared by those who care enough to protect it. The world above began to shift as well. Universities reopened courses in ancient literature and lost languages. Artists painted murals of forgotten heroes. Children studied both coding and calligraphy. Technology and tradition stopped fighting and started collaborating. The digital age no longer erased the past, it carried it forward like a torch. Selena often reflected on how far humanity had come. Once, people feared that artificial intelligence would erase culture. Now, AI worked with librarians, translators, and historians to restore what had been lost. Algorithms didn't control knowledge, they helped organize it. Machines didn't decide what mattered, people did. One day, while exploring a new chamber deep below the city, Alina found a door unlike any other. It was smaller, carved with symbols that looked older than language itself. When she placed her hand against it, it opened silently, revealing a single room. Inside was a mirror. At first, she saw only her reflection, tired eyes, grey hair, the faint tremor of age. But then the mirror shimmered and revealed others: the monk in Prague, the teacher from Alexandria, the scientist from Kyoto, and dozens more. The generations of keepers stood together, silently watching her. A voice not hers, not the keeper's. But something larger echoed through the chamber. The light of knowledge passes from one soul to another. You have carried it well. She bowed her head. And who will carry it next? The mirror rippled again, showing children's, students reading under trees, programmers sharing archives, a young girl recording her grandmother's stories. The voice replied, "Those who still seek." Tears filled Elena's eyes. She understood now the library didn't need walls anymore. It existed wherever curiosity lived. Years later, after her passing, the city named a new cultural center after her, the Alina Ruiz Memorial Library of Memory and Light. The building was both physical and digital, open source and free to all. Its design resembled the underground structure she had once discovered: spiraling shelves, glowing bridges, and words from every known language engraved into its walls. Visitors could touch a screen and instantly access any book, video, or diary preserved in the Seeklight archive. But in the quiet reading rooms below, thousands still preferred paper. The weight, the texture, the smell. The library had found harmony between the future and the past. set on the foundation stone carved beneath the entrance. Was her final message. If you are reading this, you have already found the library. It was never lost, only waiting for you to look deeper. And so the city's secret underground library lived on, not as a hidden myth, but as a timeless promise. A reminder that no matter how far technology takes us, humanity's greatest achievement will always be its ability to remember, imagine, and share. Far beneath the city, deep within the heart of the archive, one candle still burned, eternal, unshaken, untouched by time. And if you listened closely enough, you could still hear the faint turning of pages and the keeper's voice whispering through the dust and data alike. As long as there are seekers, there will always be light.